3, 2, 1. Da, 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 da. Blue streak speeds by. Sonic the Hedgehog, too fast for the naked eye. Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic, he can really move. Sonic, he's got an attitude. Sonic, he's the fastest thing alive. Look out when he storms through. Sonic the Hedgehog, don't doubt what he can do. Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic, he can really move. Sonic, he's got an attitude. Sonic, he's the fastest thing alive. He's the fastest thing alive. He's the fastest thing alive. Well, and welcome back. You are here after my nice long break. After the third story arc with Tails. It's been a little while, but I need to do this. I need to do this now. I've gotten author permission. I just got author permission, and it's really exciting. So, what is it? Last night, I did the theme song, which is going to be in front of all the season 1 recordings, and then I also got advice from the author that I should read, or at least since this falls into season 1, Sonic the Hedgehog Tales from Mobius, where we have the 4-part arc, the Malicious Metropolis Masquerade. So I'm going to be doing that. Arc 1, the Malicious Metropolis Masquerade. Part 1, Delayed Journeys. The Council's decision has been made, and the decision was to send some of their own royal fighters to help out the less fortunate groups in other places on Mobius. 2 of these fighters were an orange dog named Wilson and a purple mouse named Mandy. They had been requested to go to the Grand Metropolis, the second largest city on Mobius. The royal fighters at Grand Metropolis were suffering heavily from Eggman's never-ending army of robots, and they needed an extra hand, otherwise Grand Metropolis would suffer a terrible fate. Wilson and Mandy were skilled in combat and spy work, and both could take down most robots easily thanks to some combat training from fellow fighter Geoffrey St. John. Their skills had paid off for 8 months so far, so hopefully their skills would pay off in their mission in Grand Metropolis. Wilson and Mandy were both disappointed that none of their teammates were joining them on the mission. In fact, Wilson even wished they could have brought Sonic the Hedgehog or Geoffrey St. John, or even Bunny Rabote, but sadly they couldn't, for as they were occupied elsewhere. After the council had made their decision, Nicole the Lynx, Sally Acorn's lady-in-waiting, informed Wilson and Mandy on where they had been requested to go. The council has decided to send you two to Grand Metropolis to help the fighter groups there, she explained. We know. We overheard you talking in there, said Wilson, and we shall not let this kingdom down. We'll make sure Grand Metropolis is free from Dr. Eggman's reign of terror, said Mandy, saluting. That fat man won't know what hit him. Oh no, I just realized Mandy's accent's really similar to Sonic's. Or to me it does, so I gotta... Yeah. Now look at me. Okay, there we go. You two had better be careful, though, noted Nicole. This is the first time you're going on a mission without Sonic the Hedgehog, so if you get in trouble, he won't be able to help you, since he's staying with the Mobotropolis fighters. We'll take care of ourselves, said Wilson, even though he was shivering at the thought of getting caught and Sonic wouldn't be able to help him like last time. Asterisk. Okay, then, said Nicole. Castle Acorn wishes you two luck on your mission. Thank you, Nicole, said Wilson, and we wish you lot luck while we're gone. Nicole smiled at the fighters and left the room. Moments later, Wilson and Mandy left Castle Acorn and got into a sleek, silver hover car Mandy had built herself. The car had black windows, 4 hover pads, and 3 jet boosters in the back. Mandy was a skilled car mechanic, and she could make high-tech hover cars of any shape or size in a matter of moments, so that really helped her and Wilson. As they climbed into the car and strapped themselves up, they saw Geoffrey St. John heading off, presumably to an airport so he could catch a plane to Down Under, his designated place. They also saw Bunny Rebote flying off to Megapolis, her designated place. Yes, I finally said it right! Strangely enough, they didn't see Fiona with Sonic the Hedgehog. Maybe Fiona was doing something else. They watched Sonic zip off away from Metropolis and into the forests of Green Hill Zone. I hope Sonic and the others have good luck on their missions, said Wilson as Sonic disappeared into the distance. Oh, they'll be fine, Wilson, said Mandy calmly. Especially Sonic. That guy's unbeatable, and he's the reason we're still fighting now. But now we're on a mission without him. Do you think he won't be so lucky against Dr. Eggman? Wondered Wilson. Oh, Wilson, you worry too much, chuckled Mandy. But I find that cube at you. Now let's get going to Grand Metropolis. Those fighters are waiting for us. She turned the key in the ignition, and the glamorous, sleek, silver hover car hovered 5 centimeters off the ground and hurtled off through the under-construction city of Grand Metropolis. As the two Mobians drove through the city, Wilson admired the hard work going on to rebuild the destroyed city. Metropolis had been a great place of civilization, and Dr. Eggman shattered all that in a matter of moments with his giant battleship. Double asterisks. Do you think the new Metropolis will be better than the old one? Asked Wilson. Yeah, probably, said Mandy casually. I don't care if it's better or just the same. It'll still be Metropolis all the same. Wilson nodded in agreement. I do hope my parents are okay, he suddenly said aloud. What made you say that then? Asked Mandy as she steered the car out of the under-construction city. My parents live in Grand Metropolis, explained Wilson. Their sister's under heavy siege from Dr. Eggman. I'm concerned about them. Coincidentally, Mandy suddenly said, my sister Miriam Mouse lives in Grand Metropolis. She originally lived here with me and my parents, but she wanted to live on her own, so she moved to the big city, Grand Metropolis. I put the big city part in there. She added. Her face fell into a sad expression. I hope she's okay, what with Eggman and his robot army attacking it. So going to Grand Metropolis is almost like visiting old relatives for us, said Wilson. Let's just hope they're all right by the time we get there. I think for the time being, we should keep our minds focused on helping the royal fighters of Grand Metropolis instead of our relative Wilson, darling, said Mandy kindly. Good idea, said Wilson quickly. The hover drove on through Great Forest, a forest located on the west side of the Green Hill Zone. From there on, it was on to the mighty and magnificent city of Grand Metropolis. An anonymous robed and hooded figure with mechanical arms was sitting in a robotic throne and watching the computer monitors that loomed in front of her with close attention. These monitors displayed several areas of Mobius such as Green Hill Zone, Megapolis, Down Under, the Great Forest, and Grand Metropolis. The figure watched the monitor displaying Green Hill Zone. The monitor showed Sonic the Hedgehog running to someplace unknown to the figure. So, Sonic's going somewhere, is he? The figure purred into a nearby microphone that altered her voice and made her sound creepily robotical and growling. I do hope that Eggman is well prepared for his arrival, otherwise we'll have a repeat of what happened for 8 months straight already. Then the figure looked at the monitor displaying Megapolis. The monitor showed Bunny Rabbit arriving on the scene at last and introducing herself to Thomas Tiger, leader of the Royal Fighters of Megapolis. The figure smiled a cruel, sadistic smile. Miss Bunny Rabbit has arrived at last, she purred once again. All the better for us to capture her and finish her off. The robotization that was unfortunately halted by that stupid skunk Geoffrey St. John. I love that stutters. I'm going to do that. Speaking of Geoffrey, purred the figure. She turned her attention to the monitor displaying Down Under. That little prat is on his way to Down Under. I do hope the Eggman army there will remold his image into a skunk carpet for me to wipe my feet on. Then the figure turned her attention to the center monitor that displayed the Great Forest. The monitor showed Wilson and Mandy in the hover car, heading to Grand Metropolis at a terrific speed. The sight of this didn't surprise the figure in the slightest. She tapped the arms of her chair. So, Those wannabe fighters, Wilson and Mandy, are heading here, are they? She sneered. Well, I'm not about to let them get here in a hurry. I think I'll take some of my precious time to slow them down, or better still, stop them from coming here at all. She pressed the button on the throne. A missile-shaped robot dressed in a tutu appeared into the room and stood beside her. The robot looked very similar to Dr. Eggman's assistant bot, Alonzo, only it was thinner in appearance, and instead of black hair, her head was painted like it had long, flowing blonde hair. The robot even had a stupidly girly bow on top and one wheel that it balanced and moved around on. You summoned me, Mistress of Darkness, the robot asked in an earpiece. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to do this again. You summoned me, Mistress of Darkness! That's a lot more fun to say, the robot asked in an ear-piercingly high girl voice. Send a squad of police bots out to the great forest and ordered them to terminate those two Mobians, ordered the figure, who apparently was called the Mistress of Darkness. She pointed at the monitor displaying Wilson and Mandy, so the tutu-wearing robot knew who she meant. At what, Mistress? Said the robot. Oh, and Becky, the Mistress called the robot back for a moment. Don't you dare show your face in these premises. If you fail, or something very horrible will happen to you. Yes, Mistress! Gulped Becky, shaking like a leaf. Becky left the room to call the police squad. The Mistress smiled darkly and tapped the sides of her throne with her fingers. Dr. Eggman, I shall not lead you down, my lord, she purred to herself. I will not let this wonderful city fall out of your malevolent grasp. She clenched her fist tightly. Those Mobians will pay ever so delightfully for daring to defy you. Oh, glorious master, she said ever so sinisterly. And I can't imagine Bonnie, Joffrey, or even Wilson and Mandy will do well without that idiot Sonic the Hedgehog here to help them. ... The Mistress focused her attention back onto the computer monitors that loomed in front of her. Grand Metropolis was definitely not looking so grand right now. The second largest city on Mobius was crumbling to the ground like a sandcastle under the heavy onslaught of Eggman's nefarious army of malevolent robots. Out of all the cities on Mobius, Grand Metropolis was suffering the heaviest from Eggman's robot army due to the lack of defense Grand Metropolis had. The Royal Fighters had managed to form a group in Grand Metropolis, but not many had joined up, and many of those that had joined up had fallen in combat, so they needed an extra hand, which was why they had sent requests to borrow a fighter or two from Metropolis, since Metropolis had the best Royal Fighters. The leader of the Metropolis Royal Fighters was a chipmunk with a tough, gravelly voice, a fierce dedication to his duty, and little tolerance for failure, named Bostock. Bostock wore a traditional army man's outfit complete with green uniform and tin hat. Bostock was a tough fighter and was hard to beat in battle, and he had a long track of battles with Eggman's robots to prove it. Bostock had a friend named Mortimer, who was equally as tough as he was, and was specialized in strategic measures. Mortimer was a chipmunk just like Bostock, and he wore combat fatigues and heavy military boots. Bostock and Mortimer had been waiting for help for about half an hour now, and nothing had come so far. They just stood there and watched Grand Metropolis crumble before them in the distance. Where is that backup Metropolis is supposed to be sending us? Grumbled Bostock gruffly. I sent that call over 30 minutes ago. Calm down, Bostock, said Mortimer. Help will arrive sooner or later. And don't forget, Metropolis isn't very close to Grand Metropolis, so they'll take a bit of a long time at the most. I know, Mortimer, my friend, sighed Bostock loudly. It's just I'm not a patient man, and I can't bear to watch the city crumble any longer. I hate watching the city crumble, too, said Mortimer glumly. And I also can't stand to wait by, knowing there are innocent people getting enslaved or slaughtered by those menacing machines, grumbled Bostock. I know. It's awful, isn't it? Said Mortimer. And if that wasn't bad enough, I've heard that those robots are planning a drilling operation into the century of the city, said Bostock. Who knows how much damage that'll cause? Mortimer didn't know what to say, so he just nodded and stared into the distance. Hopefully, the backup we're requesting will be here, and then we can stop the drilling operation, said Bostock. I refuse to let the city fall any further, he cried, clenching his fist. But unfortunately, he was going to take a little longer than help was going to take a little longer than expected. ... Meanwhile, Wilson and Mandy were driving through the peaceful great forest. Wilson had a map opened out so he could tell Mandy which way they had to go, while Mandy concentrated on the driving. It had only been 10 minutes since they left Metropolis, and they'd been driving for another 10 or 15 minutes at least. Mandy could make the car go faster if she wanted, but she risked crashing into a tree, and there wasn't much space in a forest, so she had to keep it slow and steady. "Where are we now, Wilson?" asked Mandy, keeping her eyes on the path. Wilson glanced at the map. "We're almost out of the great forest," he said as he eyed the place they were in now on the map. "Once we get out of here, you can pick up speed and make up the lost time." "That's a relief," said Mandy. "I hate driving in the forest. You risk crashing a lot more in a forest than on a normal road." She spotted a log lying on the path. She pressed the button on the steering column, and the hover car levitated over the log. It settled back down in its normal hovering height after passing the log. Then the sleek silver car finally made it out of the great forest. Now there was nothing but wide open space. Mandy could go as fast as she liked. She pressed down on the acceleration pedal and the car hovered She pressed down on the acceleration pedal and the hover car's 3 jet boosters began to roar loudly. Then the car shot down the road like a charging bull. Mandy loved going fast, but Wilson, not so much. Going fast always made him feel giddy, and he always worried about crashing since a car going extremely fast is very likely to crash into something if you lose control. And that's your daily PSA. It's not over. Nevertheless, Wilson didn't say anything and just let Mandy have her fun. After all, the faster they got to Grand Metropolis, the better, and then they'd be able to assist the royal fighters in pushing back Eggman's nefarious forces. Mandy laughed childishly as he sped down the road with the wind whooshing past the car. "I don't know why, but it's always freaking awesome when I go this fast," she squealed with delight. "I'll say it is," yelled Wilson, as he clutched onto the edges of his seat and trying to refrain from having a panic attack. "Maybe a little too awesome." "There's no such thing as too awesome, Wilson," laughed Mandy. The car was going so fast that Mandy failed to notice the line of hovering police cars sitting on the edge of the road. Unfortunately for her, they were not police cars driven by normal policemen. They were police cars driven by Eggman robots. This was the police squad that the Mistress of Darkness had sent out earlier, and they were going to capture Wilson and Mandy and stop them from ever reaching Grand Metropolis, just like the Mistress had ordered them to. Oh! The police cars activated their sirens, and they zoomed down the road. The sirens screamed and wailed as they drove after Wilson and Mandy. Wilson heard the sirens and glanced at the rear-view mirror to see what was behind the car. He saw the police cars chasing them and Mandy down. He saw the police cars chasing him and Mandy down as he groaned loudly. "You see, Mandy, this is what you get for going too far," he scolded. "You're going miles too fast, and now the cops are after us." "Yeah, what?" asked Mandy. "Look in your rear-view mirror, girl," said Wilson. Mandy glanced at her rear-view mirror. Surely enough, she saw the police cars chasing after them with their sirens blaring and their roof-mounted light bars flashing brightly. Mandy sighed in annoyance. Good grief," she groaned. "Just like the cops ruined my fun. Oh well, there's a place I need to be at right now, and it's not jail, so I'd best slow down and apologize for my speeding." She lifted her foot off the acceleration pedal and pressed it down on the brake pedal. The hover car ground to a halt, and the police cars surrounded it as if they were trying to make sure it wouldn't get away. "I wonder why." Mandy rolled the window down and poked her head out of the car so she could speak to the police car on her left. "What seems to be the problem, officer?" she asked politely. The window to the police car rolled down, revealing the driver, which was a silver-colored robot with a red dome-shaped head. The robot pulled out a pistol and pointed straight at Mandy's face. "Oh my God!" shrieked Mandy. "Oh my God! Wilson, duck!" Wilson ducked, even though he wasn't sure why he had to. Mandy ducked just as his robot shot at her. The blast whizzed over their heads, smashing through the window on the other side of the car and hit the police car that was guarding the right side of Mandy's car. Man, that's some strong pistol bullet. The car was accidentally blown to smithereens. Quick as a flash, Wilson pulled out a smoke bomb from his utility belt and threw it at the robot, shooting at him and Mandy. The bomb landed on the robot's lap, and smoke billowed out and filled the entire car top to bottom. Now the robot was distracted. Mandy slammed her foot on the pedal. Her car levitated above the ground and whizzed over the police car, preventing her from going forward. The car landed and the two fighters whizzed off. The police cars chased after them, their sirens wailing loudly. One police car rolled its window down and a robot leaned out of it. The robot wasn't driving the car. It was in the passenger seat. The robot was also armed with a rocket launcher. It aimed the launcher at Mandy's car and opened fire. A rocket shot out of the launcher. The rocket hit the ground just centimeters away from Mandy's car, and force of explosion sent the car hurtling into the air. Yikes! Yikes! Screamed Wilson and Mandy, clutching the edges of their seat for dear life. Quit messing up my car, you vandals! Screamed Mandy. The car landed with a very sharp thud, bonnet first on the ground. Then it hurled through the air in a somersault and landed front first. Then the car spun around wildly before coming to a halt next to a tree, which it bashed into. Several acorns fell from the tree and landed all over the car's roof. Wilson looked like he was about to drop dead, whereas Mandy looked like she wanted to kill somebody. The car's front was a bent and buckled mess, and the windshield had cracked so badly I bet it would shatter to pieces if someone merely flicked it. If there's anything Mandy can't stand, it's her car getting wrecked. She opened the door and stepped out of the car. Wilson staggered out after her. "This is why I prefer to walk," he squeaked. The police squad finally caught up to them, and all 5 cars ground to a halt. The robots occupying the car all stepped out of the cars and aimed their weapons. The robots were all blue with red hands, and they were armed with pistols or rocket launchers. There were 10 robots in total, since 2 robots occupied 1 car. Mandy bent down in a battle-ready stance as the robots prepared to shoot her. "That's it, you scoundrels," she spat. "Trying to blow my head off is bad enough, but wrecking my beautiful Ferrari! You've got to fight!" "Yeah, what she said," added Wilson, huddled in the back. The robots opened fire. Wilson and Mandy both somersaulted out of the way of the laser blasts. Wilson landed a powerful dropkick on one robot and sent it falling flat on its face, and before it could recover, he stole the robot's gun and shot the robot to pieces with it. "Now that's what I call giving you a taste of your own medicine," he said. "I'm Wilson the dog, baby." Puts on a pair of sunglasses. "You didn't do it as good as Sonic." "Oh, shut up!" 2 more robots tried to shoot him, but Wilson shot them first. The robots crumbled to pieces before him. As for Mandy, she landed feet first on one robot and knocked it over. Then she gave one robot a flying kick around the head. That kick was so powerful it sent the robot's head spinning around and around like a roundabout. Man, Joffrey would have been having so much fun. The robot she had knocked over got back to its feet and tries to seize Mandy, but the tough mouse spotted it and punched it over. The robot whose head was spinning around finally stopped his head spinning and tried to attack Mandy, but she grabbed it by the arm and flipped it over her shoulder and onto its back. "That's what you get for wrecking my Ferrari," she said crossly. Then suddenly one robot grabbed her by the tail and pulled her towards itself. Then the robot grappled Mandy into a chokehold, its arm wrapped tightly around her neck. Robots often had strong grips, and this one was no exception. Mandy was powerless to do anything in the robot's grasp. Luckily for her, Wilson saw she was in trouble and blasted the robot's head off with the gun he had. The robot released Mandy collapsed onto its back. Duh. Oh no. I guess it's the end for me. Little Robot 7654. I never got to tell 6654 how pretty she was. I never got to complete my round of bullets. I never got to look Eggman in the eyes and tell him he had the world's best mustache. I lived a good life, but not good enough. So long, cruel world. Yeah. Thanks, Wilson, said Mandy. No props, said Wilson. Just do what royal fighters do best, smashing Eggman robots. Wilson should have kept his eye on the battle instead of making statements, because a robot managed to creep up on him and kick him in the back of the head. I'm still alive! The stunned dog fell on the stomach, and the robot snatched his gun away and pointed it at the back of his head. This is why I prefer not to use weapons most of the time, whined Wilson. You'll get off my friend, or I'll make you sorry, warned Mandy. The two robots she had knocked out had regained consciousness, and they grabbed her by the arms. Mandy tried to get free, but like the robot that got her in a chokehold earlier, the grip was too powerful, even for someone as strong as her. We'll avenge 7654! Yeah. All the robots started cheering. 7654, 7654, 7654. Let me go, you mechanical freaks! Yelled Mandy. The robots ignored her and carried her to one of the police cars. Wilson watched helplessly as his friend was taken away. He had a feeling he would be next unless he did something fast. The robot that was holding him at gunpoint then grabbed him by the scuff of his neck and began to carry him towards the police car. That's when Wilson had an idea. He grabbed a smoke bomb from his utility belt and hurled it into the robot's face. The robot staggered backwards and dropped Wilson. Now he was free. Wilson ran up to the two robots carrying Mandy to the police cars and kicked one of them in the back of the legs. This caused the robot to kneel down, and Mandy saw the opportunity to punch it in the head. The other robot still had hold of her, but not for long. Wilson gave it a sharp kick to the back, and this in turn caused the robot to let go of Mandy. And then Mandy gave it a kick to the head so hard, its head came clean off its body. No, not... I'm sorry, 7654. I know you always had a thing for me. I wanted to avenge your life, but I guess I could not. I'm so sorry. Yeah. The headless robot fainted. Wilson and Mandy gave each other a high five. As Sonic might say, way past cool, chuckled Wilson. Whatever you do, cute stuff, don't quote Sonic the Hedgehog, giggled Mandy. No one does it better than him. What are you talking about? I'm the coolest dude around. And that's just the facts. Wilson the dog, baby. Puts on another pair of sunglasses because he lost the first pair of sunglasses while fighting. As for the robots, there were only 5 left, and they had decided to change tactics. Instead of facing the two directly, they hid behind the police cars and aimed a rocket launcher at them. This would surely avenge their fallen comrades. They prepared to fire at them, but unfortunately for them, Mandy heard them loading the rockets. Wilson heard it too, and they both ran for it. The robots fired just a fraction too late, and the rocket soared past the dog and mouse and hit some trees instead. The rocket exploded and several trees fell over. Wilson picked up a robot's gun that was lying around and opened fire on the police cars. He was hoping to shoot them so badly they would explode due to the damage done to the cars. The robots had no idea what he was doing, but they decided to try firing another rocket to see if they could get him this time. 4, 5, 6, 7. Do you have the rocket launcher? Yes, I do. 5, 6, 7, 8. We got this. We will avenge him. Wilson only just managed to dodge the rocket and continued to fire at the police cars. He managed to shoot the engine to one police car, and that one shot to the engine blew the car to smithereens. The explosion of the first car set the other cars off, and they exploded. The robots hiding behind the cars were blown away from the sheer power of the explosion, and they were reduced to nuts and bolts. Chunks of metal from the cars showered the entire woods, and smoke and fire billowed out from the destroyed cars. Down on the ground, one robot was still barely conscious, but just barely. Oh, my friends, I remembered back in school. We used to have such good times. It was the happiest days of my life. I'd never had any friends till you. And now it's all done. Long live the Mustache Empire. And with that, Robot 1111 fell to the ground. Wilson punched the air and whooped with joy. Now that's serious shooting, baby, he cheered. Mandy had watched the whole thing and she couldn't believe her eyes. Whoa, Wilson, that was incredible, she said. You're one sharp shooter. Yeah, I am, aren't I? Said Wilson. And the irony of it all is, I'm not that keen on using a gun, and yet I use one quite well. Well, it's a good thing you do use one well, because you've just saved our necks back there, said Mandy. Now those robots are gone, we can get to Grand Metropolis now. Is the car all right? Asked Wilson. Mandy ran over to a car to inspect it. The car's front and grille was slightly buckled, and the right door had a dent in it from when the robots sent it flying and crashing. Other than that, it still seemed to be in working order. Mandy opened the door, stepped into the car, and turned the ignition on. She noticed a little picture of all the different robots together as though they were graduating high school. The car started up surprisingly nicely. I think the car's all right, cried Mandy. Well, that's a relief. Well, that's a relief, said Wilson, throwing the gun away and running over to the car. He opened the door and got into the passenger seat. Oh, I'm still doing the accent. Next to Mandy. They both buckled themselves up, and Mandy stepped on the pedal. The car roared to life, and it sped off down the path at top speed. If we hurry, we can make up the last time, said Mandy. I just hope Grand Metropolis isn't too roughened up for Eggman's attacks. I just hope my parents are all right, said Wilson, looking at the window and watching the scenery whiz past as the car sped on. They would find out these facts once they arrived at Grand Metropolis, and that was still a good few minutes away. But with Mandy going as fast as possible, they would arrive in no time. ... Come on, you worms. You can work faster than this, snarled the Mistress of Darkness. The Eggman robots began to pick up the pace of the enormous drill they were setting up. The terrifying Mistress just stood and watched the robots build the drill and barked out orders. The robots were setting up an enormous drill with a drill bit that was larger than a 5-story building and laden with ferocious spikes. This drill was going to dig down into the earth so they could unearth the sea of oil that had been detected down there. With this much oil, Eggman would never run out of it, and his robots would always have some. Not to mention they could ruin the environment a little just to add insult to injury with so much oil. Yeah, because it's totally a smart idea to ruin the planet you're taking over. All the Mobians would get stuck if they were drenched in oil after all. The Mistress of Darkness was looking forward to this operation dearly, and she did not want it to fail, otherwise she would get harsh punishment from Dr. Eggman. The drilling operation must go according to plan, she said to herself. The oil run must be mined and unearthed, otherwise Eggman's robots will be on limited amounts, and they won't be able to run. Mistress, squeaked the obnoxious... Oh, we're back with Becky. Mistress! Squealed the obnoxious, shrilling voice of Becky. She zoomed up beside the Mistress in a salute. What is it, you obnoxious little tin can? Barked the Mistress. I'm overseeing the operations right now. I have terrible news, Mistress! Squeaked Becky. The police squad you sent to get Wilson and Mandy has been completely destroyed. The Mistress said nothing. She pointed a sharp metallic finger at Becky and fired a laser at her. Becky was blown to smithereens, but just like Alonzo, she could put herself back together, so it didn't really matter. And like the entire police force team, they really did die. The Mistress turned away from the destroyed Becky and groaned loudly. How did Wilson and Mandy survive that? She screeched. They're supposed to be useless. They're talentless wannabes. They're OCs, I think, not skilled fighters. It's obvious I overlooked those morons, isn't it? Oh. She put a metallic finger to her lips and mused for a moment. I'll need a better robot to stop them coming here, she said to herself, and I have just the thing. She turned to Becky, who was finishing putting herself back together, and pointed a finger as sharp as a dagger at her. Becky, send out Egg Taurus to get Wilson and Mandy. My mistress, protested Becky. Egg Taurus isn't finished yet. That's an order, snarled the Mistress. And why is nothing finished around here? Yes, Mistress! At once, Mistress! Cried Becky, zooming off like a toddler, pedaling really fast on a tricycle. The Mistress watched her gormless sidekick rush off and said to herself that Egg Taurus is bound to give them a run for their money. It is the most powerful Eggman robot so far built, and since they don't have Sonic with them, they have no chance. And she cackled a cruel, icy cackle at the very thought of Wilson and Mandy, defeated and dead by the horns of Egg Taurus. Once they were gone, the drilling operation would commence, and no one would be able to stop it. Eggman would be wallowing in oil when the mistress was finished.